right. All right, folks, I'm going to get started now and welcome you all officially to this meeting. We've had a couple of meetings, some sort of semi-private and one about 2 weeks ago with Douglas Kruger, and he spoke about book writing, and that was wildly successful. People really enjoyed it. What we're trying to do with these meetings is the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa is just trying to reach out to all people who view themselves as professional speakers and to be able to offer some of the resources that we have at our disposal to yourselves. So we just want to be able to share everything that the knowledge that we have and the wonderful experience we have, and invite you to come and have fun with us and enjoy what we're doing here. It's not a requirement for you to be a member of PSA to enjoy this. This is not a membership drive. We're going to be doing this anyway, so we just want to be able to share it with you. So please enjoy and don't feel any obligation to sign up. Of course, that would be nice, but there's no obligation at all. If you want to know anything more about the PSA, you can drop us an email at some point and we'll send you some information. What we're going to do tonight, the agenda is very, very simple. We're going to just kind of whiz around this virtual room so we can introduce ourselves. We don't have too many people on the call at the moment, so it is still doable. And when we introduce ourselves, it's just going to be, I'll call your name, you can unmute yourself, say hello, tell us who you are, where you are in the country, and what kind of speaking you do. A full-time speaking or kind of part-time. And what your subject is. So you can just share that very quickly. Then I'll introduce Graeme Codrington officially to the meeting. Graeme will speak for about 20 minutes or so on his topic of getting international speaking business. And then we'll have about 15 minutes or so of Q&A. So everyone can ask their questions and Graeme can handle them for us. And then after that, just a few minutes to wrap up. If there's any questions in general or anything that anybody wants to share, then we can enjoy that in the last few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to mute or unmute everybody. I'm just going to go around the room and do the introductions. Please, folks, if I get to the end and I've left you out for some reason, it's just because of how the screen is arranged. Please don't take it personally. Just let me know, and we certainly want to hear from everybody. And so what I'm going to do actually is start with I'm going to start with Richard down at the bottom, and then we can go to Roger. Richard is our current national president of the Professional Speakers Association. I bet he can tell you more. Is Richard there? Hi, Richard. Richard. Hi, Richard.
Yeah. Hi, you went blank as soon as you started to introduce me. I didn't hear a word. So I have absolutely no idea what you said about me, but it's all fine, I expect.
All right.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a speaker. I'm also a trainer. I speak on self-motivation and leadership.
Good. And just for the folks who don't know, Richard and I are married. He's in a different room, just so we don't have any feedback, and we have different surnames, but other than that, it's all fine. Then I'm going to introduce Roger Knowles. Roger Knowles is a past national president of the PSA. Roger, can you unmute yourself and just introduce yourself, please, to us?
I can. Hi, everybody. As Charlotte said, I'm a past national president and founder of the Durban chapter. I am primarily an attorney these days. I speak from time to time on mediation and similar topics, conflict resolution, primarily.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Lois and Nikki, I'm just going to give you a heads up that I'll introduce you next if you want to just sort out your unmuting in the meantime. But we'll go to Eugenie. Is it Eugenie Drakes? Am I saying your name correct? You want to unmute yourself?
Yes, you are. Thank you. It's Eugenie Drakes. I'm in Johannesburg and very happy to be here. I'm involved in the creative industries with a specific focus on the handcraft sector. My interest is enterprise development, coaching and mentoring, but I have actually been doing some storytelling and leadership inspiration talks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eugenie. Welcome. Nikki Abdenor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Nikki. I'm a clinical psychologist, so I split my time between my therapy practice and my professional speaking. I do inspirational keynote speaking, and I also have an interest in disability in the workplace. And what I'd like to get out of this session, I'll just add in, is that I'm going to be going to Australia for the first time next month. And I'd love to know how to capitalize on that visit. I'm speaking at a conference there. So hopefully I get more talks in Australia, if I like it.
Good. Thank you, Nikki. I'm going to ask Dion to introduce himself next. Lois, are you able to unmute yourself in the meantime? Okay, Dion, if you can wait a moment, we'll talk to Lois. Thank you, Lois.
Hi, I'm Lois Strachan. I'm based in Cape Town. I don't want to say ditto what Nikki Abden had said. I'm a keynote speaker. I focus mostly on using my personal story to help people overcome life and business challenges. I'm also a facilitator and author, do a bit of coaching on when I have the opportunity. And, okay, unlike Nikki, I'm not speaking in radio soon. But I think apart from that, yeah, and it's good to be on the call.
Good. Thank you, Lois. Dion, can I ask you, please?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Dion Chang, and I run a company called Flux Trends, and I'm in the same business as Graeme is in terms of the trends business, but we have a different focus of direction. And I fell into speaking almost by default, and now as a result, do a lot of keynotes and speaking, and starting to get a lot of international requests. So that's why I'm here, and also about to join the association as well.
Oh, welcome. Well done. Thank you, Dion. Bruce Page, how are you, Bruce? Can you introduce yourself to the rest of the group?
Evening, I'm Bruce Page, and I am an ecologist by professional, ex-academic. I meet with the KZN chapter, and I run a small consultancy on ecological research and consulting. And part of that is talking about environmental awareness, and I also have a little bit of a fireside storytelling session that I do at various game ranches and that sort of thing. I work in Southern Africa, and the international thing with Southern African countries is of interest to me.
Great. Thank you, Bruce. It's lovely to see you again. Gavin Novus.
Evening, everybody. Nice to be with you. Based in Johannesburg. I'm an executive coach, speaker, and trainer. I'm really excited to be with you all and to hear from Graeme how we can expand the pot a little bit and perhaps move into an international market. So nice to be with you all. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gavin. Marlette, I don't have your surname at hand. Marlette, can you hear us?
I'm Marlette Heggie. I am based in Joburg. I'm inspirational keynote speaker and also a performance coach.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Chris Vermeulen. Chris is the president of the brand newly formed Pretoria chapter of PSA. And we're seeing his hand. There we go. Hi, Chris.
Yeah. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Vermeulen. I started traveling internationally with my training and speaking in the year 2003, so it's been 13 years, but obviously not as extensively as Graeme, and I'm here to learn more. But when I go internationally, I train and speak on project management and technical report writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Garth, your picture says Garth iPhone, and I don't have a picture of you, but can you introduce yourself first, please? And I'm not sure if Garth can do that on his iPhone, but we're trying. Garth, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds, otherwise we'll have to come back to you another time. Okay, I'm going to move on now to Lorne. How are you, Lorne? You want to unmute yourself, Lorne? There we go.
Okay. Fine, thanks, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Well, we won't take a long time for small talk.
Is that a video?
Firstly, just thanks very much to the PSA and whoever's concerned for doing this. I think you've got terrific, and I'm looking forward to tonight and many more. I'm based in Cape Town, and I am a keynote speaker. I speak locally, domestically, and quite a bit internationally. And I was a game ranger for many years. I speak on the success lessons from Africa's 3 big cats around business to business.
Sorry, we're just trying to mute Max there. There we go, I think. All right, thank you. Sorry, Lorne, that got a bit interrupted, but I think we all heard your message. Do you have anything to add after that?
No. Let's move on.
All right. I'm just trying to check that we are muting everybody. I'm going to just mute everybody and then we'll undo this one at a time. Okay. All right. Andre Dutoy, how are you? So can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Charlotte. My name is Andre Dutoy. I'm a mathematician for my sins for 25 years. I eventually realized I was in the wrong job and I've been a professional speaker for the last 7. I speak about economics and politics. And I haven't had any international jobs yet, but Nikki, if you're looking for someone to carry your suitcases, I'm a perfect candidate.
Very good. Thanks, Andre. Adele, how are you? Would you like to introduce yourself? Adele is our president of the Gauteng chapter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adele Durant. I primarily focus on using habits for creating high performance, working with teams and leaders, and speaking, training, coaching, all around that. I haven't had any international gigs yet, and I'm really waiting for some tips and ideas on how to get into that. That's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Adele. Seth Randall, how are you? Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, thanks. I'm Seth Randall. I'm in Johannesburg. I'm currently in the training and coaching space around transformation, enterprise development, and also entrepreneurship. I do some speaking through my work, but would like to formalize it in terms of a professional speaking career. And having an American wife, I do aspire to being able to do some international gigs once my career takes off. So I'm just kind of thinking forward and trying to think big.
Very good. Thank you, Seth. I'm going to ask Ross to introduce himself next, and then after that, Martin, if you can work out how to unmute yourself in the meantime. Thank you, Ross.
Hi, Ross here. So I'm in the technology space. I'm quite interested. I've seen Graeme before at the PSA, seen Adele, I've spoken to Chris a few times. So I'm looking to get more involved in this. I've brought my wife with as well. And we're both in the technology space, and I'm quite keen on hearing what's happening tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Ross. Martin, are you able to? There you go. Hi, Martin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Martin Brown. Based here in Johannesburg. I'm an entrepreneur, businessman, and I mainly speak on how to help employees cope with disruptive change in this environment and adversity.
Okay. Thank you very much. And you were on our call last time as well, so you're going to become a regular.
Yes, definitely.
Marvelous. Thank you, Martin. Renee and Rian, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. I'm Renee van Wyk. I'm also a coach. I'm an industrial social worker that did training. And then more and more people started asking me to do talks, and I mainly talk about the power of focus and personal power, which is more or less about coaching and goal setting. And I've also started presenting workshops on confident public speaking for entrepreneurs and young people, because I have a short gap year program. And I'm very interested to up my skills, and I have no idea how to sell myself, because I do the talks at this stage free of charge, and I'm getting invited a lot, and I don't know how to charge for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Renee, Rian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Rian. I'm a sex therapist, and I'm also get invited to do talks on healthy sexuality. Currently, I'm doing it for free as well. So.
All right. Good. Some interesting topics. Sid Pemia, how are you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sid Pemia. I'm the Executive Director of the Cape Chamber of Commerce, and I'm asked to speak frequently on a variety of subjects, and my most international gig that I unfortunately had to turn down was Zimbabwe, and I'm looking at being more focused and finding a subject and getting more exposure.
Very good. And Sid, I'm enjoying reading your blog post, so I'm sure you got some interesting topics to speak about.
Sure.
Thanks, Sid. Okay, Max, how are you, Max? If you'd like to unmute yourself, and then you can introduce yourself to us, just where you're from and what you speak on. Thank you. Max, we just want to unmute you. There we go. Try again, Max.
Hi, guys. Good evening. I'm a former member of the PSA, and yeah, I might be rejoining. I'm a hypnotist, and I like to speak to people about the powers of the mind, and more importantly, I like to remind people that change is actually quite easy to do. Change is happening automatically, so if it's happening automatically, we ought to tap into that and create personal change easily and effortlessly. And I like to remind people, I don't care what your problem is, if you want to change, it can be done. And again, can be done using the power of our mind. So I'm so looking forward to Graeme's. I'm a big fan of Graeme's work, and I'm so looking forward to hearing what he has to share with us, because this man is the international traveler. And if you want any advice on that subject, you've got to listen to Graeme. So thank you, and pleased to be on this call.
Thanks, Max. It's great to have you back again here. All right, I'm just trying it one more time to see if Garth can talk to us from his iPhone. I'm going to unmute you, Garth. Maybe you want to just try and speak. Hi, Garth. We're not hearing anything from you.
Charlotte, Garth sent a note to the chat saying he can't.
All right. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. I missed that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Just to kind of complete the introductions of everyone, my name is Charlotte Kemp, like I said at the beginning, and Richard Mulvey and I are married. We're both here in the Cape chapter, and Cape Town was quite nice and warm and pleasant today, so winter wasn't too bad. I speak, I'm in a period of kind of transition in my speaking experience. So I know we have some professional futurists on the call, but I would identify myself as an amateur futurist. And I don't speak on technology because I know that everyone else covers that very well. So I'm still trying to work out what exactly my field is. But just to kind of earn our money, I train on LinkedIn. That's the main work that I do at the moment. And I have the wonderful privilege of being able to host these events and organize speakers to come and share something that is really valuable to us. And that is why we invited Graeme to speak. And what I did was I went to Graeme's website. He said, you know, I know him well enough that I could introduce him, but I thought, you know, let's just see how he does it. And being the professional that he is, he has two different versions of how to introduce himself. And all I'm going to do is summarize this because we all seem to know what Graeme is about and we're looking forward to this. But Graeme has written, he has 5 degrees. He's got 5 best-selling books, and he lectures at 5 universities around the world. So I think that's all I'm going to say about Graeme, because he's obviously expressed his professionalism and his experience in the topic that we're trying to look at today. So I'm going to hand it over to Graeme, and once Graeme has finished talking, Graeme, you can just let us know, and then we'll handle some questions from there.
Great. Charlotte, you just want to mute all again. I think I'm just hearing some background noise, and then I'll unmute.
All right, I'm muting all.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. And thanks, Charlotte, for the invitation. Thanks, everybody, for joining this evening. As Charlotte said, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes or so. And you just take some notes as we go along. If you have any questions and you feel like typing them into the chat, go ahead, and I'm watching that live. Otherwise, just keep the questions, and there will be time for a few questions at the end. To complete the story, you all introduced yourself. I'm based out of Johannesburg, and I work on the issues of disruptive change and future trends, and I work with corporates all around the world. A little piece of introduction linked to this topic is that last year I was in 24 countries. I've been in 18 countries already this year. Total in my career so far, and I do keep track of this, is 82 countries that I've actually been to and spoken in. And yeah, I'm probably away from home on the road about 100 to 120 days a year. So that's not necessarily as sexy as it sounds. In fact, it definitely isn't. It's good for the bank balance, but fairly rough on the body to do that. But it's a real privilege to do what we do. So what I'm doing this evening is obviously this is a huge topic, talking internationally. We could look at logistics, we could talk about how to travel, and maybe we can come back to that if those are of interest. I want to talk this evening specifically about how you build your business. So not the logistics of how you manage your visas and your passports and deal with travel and all the rest and the details, but the whole concept of how do you grow your profile? How do you develop that international business? And I do have in mind the sort of, if you like, the full international. That's really where I work. I don't work a lot regionally outside of South Africa, in sort of the southern African countries. I mean, I would if I got invitations, but my focus is more full international. Some of what I say this evening will apply equally to the regional environment, but I think the regional environment is slightly easier. And I'll try and make that distinction as we go along. But a lot of what I'm saying is focused on trying to get you, if you can, onto the full international circuit. So with that as a foundation and background, let me launch in. And I'm going to move quite quickly and then give you an opportunity to ask questions if you want more detail on each of the areas. I think the first thing that you need to be very clear about when you begin to embark on an international speaking career is you actually need to know why. Why are you going to do it? And this might not sound like the obvious place to start. And some of you might just think, well, because it's there. And I'm not sure that's a good enough reason. Traveling internationally is hard work. There is nothing easy about getting on an airplane, flying across the world. A lot of the time when you're starting off, it'll be in economy class. The preparation that's required to adjust your content for different cultures, realizing that almost all of your humor is going to not work. You're going to have to adjust your content to make sure it's appropriate. If you go into Muslim countries, you've got to look at your content through a completely different lens. You've got to adapt and adjust. You've got to deal with visas and embassies and all the rest. So I don't want to put you off. I mean, it's magnificent. It's brilliant, but it isn't the easiest thing you'll ever do. And I'm absolutely convinced that it's much easier to build your business in your home country than it is to build it internationally. If you're struggling to build your business, I know there are a few people on the call now who are still wanting to find out, how do I turn speaking, which is a hobby / interest / passion, into a business. You've still got a lot of work to do before you can think internationally. I can't think of an example of a person who got their first job internationally, or who was a sort of breakthrough success internationally, who wasn't already reasonably successful in their home country. So definitely, if you're still building your career, keep building your career. International will come, but if you can't be successful in your home country, you're not going to be successful internationally. It really is about as simple as that. So let's get back to the question. Why would you then want to go through the hard work of building a career internationally? Well, it could just be because you like travel. I love travel. I always have, and I love visiting the world. That's why I count the countries I go to, and I keep a record of them, and I love traveling around the world. So that's a good enough reason. But if that is your reason, then you need to make sure that you see the world. It's very easy to fly in to a conference venue, land on the morning of the conference, get a taxi to the Marriott Hotel, which, trust me, is the same as the Marriott Hotel in Johannesburg and the same as the Marriott Hotel in Durban. And you get to the Marriott Hotel, you have a shower in a Marriott shower, you go down to the Marriott ballroom, you do your presentation, you meet the clients, you have a Marriott lunch, you get back in a taxi, you fly back to the airport, you fly home. So you remind yourself why you're doing this. If it's for seeing the world, well, you just forgot to see the world in doing that. It could be that you do it for your own learning. I learned so much traveling around the world. Different cultures, different people have different perspectives, and it's wonderful to see those perspectives. But I have to remind myself to speak to people and ask them how they see the world. You could, of course, be doing it very from a mercenary perspective. You know, it's just to make some money. And I am going to talk about money, and you make a lot more money internationally than you do locally. There are costs associated with that. We'll talk about that. But if that's what it's for, then that's also good to know. And it could just be to build your profile. I started working internationally about 12 years ago when I really felt that, I really did feel after a very, very busy year in South Africa that most companies had used me and that I was going to start running out of a market. Some of you on this call are in a similar position. Nikki may be heading towards that in the next little while. Dion, I think you might be in that space. But most of you are not. And you want to begin to think about, you know, in how many years time is everybody going to have used you yet in South Africa, and you've got to get ahead of the curve because it can take a few years to build up your international profile. And then finally, it might just be about building your profile. You know, when you can say you're an international speaker on your CV, then it's a whole lot easier to get work in South Africa again. So there might be a variety of reasons to start, but I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this right at the beginning, because you really do need to know what it is you're trying to achieve with speaking internationally. And make sure that you achieve that is what I'm saying. Keep that list. If you're going to write a list, if you can actually do a bit of homework after this call, write that list up and keep it somewhere that you'll look at it again in a year's time and 2 years' time and remind yourself of why you were doing it. And that really helps you to define what success will look like. Is success going to be you earn a lot of money? Fantastic. Then it doesn't matter how much you're traveling, how brutal it is. You're earning a lot of money. Excellent. It was worth it. If success is seeing different countries, well, then you want to spread yourself over different countries rather than just going back to one all the time. So know how you're going to decide whether this was worth it or not. Okay, so with that in mind, you now know why you want to go. How do you go? Well, what you need to do is look at this from the client's perspective. There are millions of clients in the world, and you need to be very clear about what type of clients use you. Now, again, I hope that you have some clarity about this in South Africa, in your home market. Who are your best clients? And by that, it's not the clients you like the most, it's the clients who like you the most. Which clients have you been able to add the most value to? And it's kind of analyze why that was so. This might be clients who've invited you back over and over again. This might be clients, it's not just the clients who gave you a nice testimonial. It's clients who've kind of come back to you and said, that blew us away, or we changed our business because of what you said or did, or you changed my life. Look back at those clients and try and build a profile of those clients, because you want to find clients like that internationally. And if you've got 1 million clients who could use you, you've got to try and find the clients who will use you and who will pay you money. So who are your best clients? Which clients are going to get the best out of you, and why would they use you? You know, what is it that you're offering? What value are you giving them? Now, if this all sounds a little bit basic, it really is. To be honest, I'm not going to give you any rocket science this evening, because there isn't any to do this. Building your business internationally is just like building your business at home, except harder. but you do exactly the same things you've done in South Africa to build your business. And if you have built a business and you have got a profile, the only thing you've got going for you is that you know how to do it. And you've got all the stuff you need in order to do it. There are no shortcuts in this international market. So what clients want to use you? Second question is, how do you get in front of those clients? So what are those, if you are the answer to a question, if the answer to the question is Graeme Codrington, what was the question? So a client is hosting a conference and they're thinking, we need somebody to speak on XYZ, who's the best speaker to speak on this? The answer is Graeme Codrington. I need to know what that question is. I need to know what value they want, what type of person they're looking for, and then I need to build my profile so that I become the answer to the question. Remember that it's much more difficult for a client to consider you if you're an international speaker. Why? Why would a client want to fly you all the way from South Africa, on the bottom end of Africa, to somewhere else? Why wouldn't they just use a local person? So what I'm really saying here is you have to be very, very, very clear about your value proposition if you want to build your business internationally. And you've got to realize that there's nobody who introduced themselves here this evening and nobody who's going to watch this recording who is one of a kind in the world. You might be one of a kind in your home country, which is very nice, but I can't imagine you'd be one of a kind in the world. And so there are other options. There are other people, and there are a lot of other people who can do this. So you've got to be very clear. And your reputation has got to be international. So how do we do that? Well, let me get now more practical. I think one of the very practical things that you can start doing right now is to start thinking and speaking and acting like an international expert. It's kind of like a fake it until you make it, a bit of advice. But for example, let me ask you, what is your website name? If you don't even have a website, you're not going to get booked internationally. And why would you? Now, this might be your personal website or it might be your company website, but if an international person searches on Google for you and can't find you, they're not going to fly you across the world. Too much of a risk. So you need to have a website. So what is your website? What's the address? Is it a .co.za? If it is a .co.za, then is that the right message you're wanting to send? That I'm South African. Now, for some of you, that's a fine message. You know, if you were a game ranger and your message is, I'm coming to speak to you about my experiences in the African bush, well, fantastic. Then it's excellent that you are positioned as a South African expert. But for me, I had to go and get the .com. I didn't want to be known as the guy from South Africa. I want to be known as a futurist, an international futurist. And so for some of you, you've got to step up and buy that .com or some version of it or create a company name that positions you. And I don't think there's one way that's better or the other. In fact, I have both. I have a company, Tomorrow Today, and a personal, and I have both of those .com websites. Secondly, in all of your blogs and your writing and your communications, you need to speak like an international person. So today we've all been voting. If you just wrote on your blog, wow, today was such an important day in the life of our country, it was wonderful to be part of the voting. Well, you know, somebody who's reading your blog in New Zealand, they have no context for that statement. You just have to step away from being a South African in the way you write. So even on my Facebook page, if I write about a South African specific thing, I'll often preface the statement with, for my South African friends. I'm just turned my brain to think you're not in South Africa, you're in the world. And when I talk about South Africa, I talk about it as if it's separate from me, if that makes sense. And you want to do the same with any testimonials you've got, with your list of clients. Put the international clients at the top of the list. That people don't know who Tiger Brands is. It's a nice big company, but it's a South African company. But people might know who Nestle is. People don't know who ABSA is, but people know who Barclays is. So there are ways of writing about yourself, developing your profiles, building your websites that just help people to get a sense that you are international and that you speak internationally. I even go down to being quite careful about my spelling. If I'm working with American clients, then program is spelt without the last ME. If I'm working with a British client, then it has the last ME. And so, that's it. If you want to be an international speaker, you've got to think internationally and develop your profile. And then thirdly, so if you've got your website and that is set up internationally, then you're thinking internationally in your blogs, your social media, your LinkedIn, your articles, and so on. Then the third thing is you need to make sure that you've got all of your marketing collateral in place. And I'm going to assume that this is a medium to higher level engagement here, and I won't go through the list. This is your one sheet, your videos, your bio, you've got to have all of that. So everything you're going to need in order to be listed with a speaker's agent in South Africa, you're going to need that stuff to operate internationally, because you're going to have a client contacting you and saying, please, can you just send me your bio? Or they want to check out your videos. I can't imagine you're going to get international work if you don't have a good YouTube channel. With videos up, because people are going to want to see. They're going to want to check your accent, make sure that you can speak in a dialect of English that they understand. They want to see you in action. So again, all of these are things that you would have to have in place to be successful in South Africa. You just have to you take it a step up when you go internationally. So what do you do then to make these connections internationally? You've now got the content, you've got a sense of the value that you can add. How do you find clients? Well, basically you start again. You do whatever it is you've done over the last few years to develop your business, you do that all again. So here are a few things that I think are very valuable. First of all, you contact conference organizers, we call them PCOs, professional conference organizers, and associations. Every industry in every country in the world has an annual conference. The Banking Association of France, the Civil Engineers Association of Peru, the accountants, the Chartered Accountants Association of New York State. They've all got their annual conferences, and Google is your friend. So what you need to do is pick a part of the world. There are how many 300 odd countries in the world, 200 and something countries in the world. You can't go to all of them. So typically pick a region. You might pick Europe, you might pick North America, you might pick Southeast Asia, you might pick Middle East. Those, I think, would be the 4 best starting points. North America, so USA, it's a tough gig because there are a lot of professional speakers there, and they are 50 different countries, those states. But North America, then Europe and the UK, maybe after Brexit we'll treat those two separately. Then Middle East, and then I would say Southeast Asia, so Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam a little bit, but mainly Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. Nikki, personally, I wouldn't look at Australia. They don't pay that well. I'll get to prices in just a moment. But hey, add Australia, New Zealand if you want to, and if you get an invitation, obviously go. And that's often what happens for people. They get an invitation to a country first, and then they say, right, I'm going to now focus on this region. So what would you do? go and look at all the conferences and associations. So Nikki, let's use you as an example. You've had an invitation to Australia. You're speaking to a particular client in a particular industry. Try and get that client to connect you with the industry association and offer to speak at that association at their next annual event. That may only be in early 2017, but if the people who are organizing that association event can come along and see you in action when you're with your client now, that's a win-win-win for everybody. And then they invite you back next year and say, come and speak at our association. You probably won't get paid, but they might pay your travel. So most associations will pay your costs to get there, if not giving you a speaking fee. But now you're speaking to everybody in that industry. You're speaking to all the CEOs and so on. So that's very clever. Secondly, get a media presence. Your clients will love the fact that they can get some free PR. They've paid for a guest speaker to come from overseas. Simply tell your client, I'm available to do media work. And ask them to get journalists either lined up while you are there, or even better, before you come, that they interview you before you come. But just tell your clients, I want to get into the media. What you can also do is look at your existing South African clients and ask them, so these are your better clients, ask them if they've got operations or contacts or suppliers or clients in the region you're trying to open. So again, Nikki, it's a great example. You've got a country you're going to. So now go back to 4 or 5 of your major clients and say, look, I'm going to be in Australia, and could you make some introductions? Do you have a branch in Australia? Do you have any key suppliers? Can you make some introductions for me? And then finally, look for speaker agents. Now, again, you need to know how to handle speaker agents. So if you don't know how to handle speaker agents in South Africa, get that done first. But for those of you who are on this call are already represented by speaker agents, you know what the speaker agents are about, you know what they need, you know how they work. So connect then with speaker agents in the other country. And here's a fantastic tip for you. Invite the speaker agent. So contact a speaker agent. Say, I'm going to be in Sydney. We'll keep with you, Nikki, as your example. I'm going to be in Sydney, on this date. I've been recommended you. Now, how do you find a speaker's agent? Well, Google is your friend, or use the PSA. So through the PSA, get to the PSAA, the NSA of Australia, ask them for a list of the top speakers agents, and the PSA can help you to do that. And then contact them and say, look, the PSA gave me your name, and I've checked you out. You look like a really top quality speakers agent. This is who I am. And I would love to invite you to come and meet the client that I'm speaking at. So I'm coming, it's all organized. You're not going to get anything out of this, but I will introduce you to the client, and then any other work, any other speakers this client has to book, you can book them. So it's a gift for the speaker's agent, and you get somebody on side, and somebody who can help you out on the ground. Sorry, I should have had a glass of water here. I should survive. Anything else you've ever done in South Africa to build your business, you can do in whatever other country you're wanting to open. I'll say one more thing, and this should be obvious from everything else I've said. You have to go there. You can't do this. You can't shoot in and out. Nikki, you get an invitation to go and speak. You speak on a Tuesday in Sydney. You need to take the rest of the week. You need to be there for the rest of the week. The client is paying, hopefully, your costs to be there. Often you can say to the client, look, I need to come in a day or two early so I don't have jet lag. I'd like to stay on a day or two later to, enjoy your city. And they've often got a conferencing package where they can give you 4 or 5 nights in a hotel at the conference venue that they're at. And so use your clients, get your clients to pay for as much as possible. But even if they'll only give you 1 or 2 nights, you pay the rest of the money. You invest, you be there. Sometimes you're just there and there's nothing much to do, and then you set up and you try and meet with other speakers, meet with PSA people in those countries and so on. But there's no shortcut here. That's the point I was trying to make. So finally, and I've taken maybe 5 minutes longer than I thought, but I will give time for questions in 2 minutes. What about pricing? So here's a little formula for you. For every 10,000 Rand that you charge in South Africa, here's what you can charge internationally, roughly. So for every 10,000 Rand you charge in South Africa, you can charge about $4,000 in America. So if you charge 15,000 Rand, then your fee in America is $6,000. If you're charging 30,000 Rand in South Africa for a session, then your fee can be $12,000 in America. Rough guide. In Asia and in South America, for every 10,000 Rand that you charge in South Africa, you can charge about $2,500 US. And I tend to quote typically in US dollars. No matter where I am in the world, although because I lived in the UK, I do quote in pounds when I'm in the UK, but I don't think I would typically charge, quote and charge in US dollars. In Europe, for every 10,000 Rand that you charge in South Africa, you can charge about $3,000 US. And in the Middle East, the Middle East is roughly about the same as Southeast Asia at the moment, so that's about $2,500. That would typically exclude costs, so you would then have travel costs and accommodation and visa costs on top of that, but that is often a negotiation with the client. Many of your clients prefer an all-in price, and then I would typically just add whatever that pricing comes to. I would typically add about $1,000 on top of that. And then you organize your own travel. You choose what class of travel you go in, but you give people an all-in price, or you give them a fee, and then they pay the travel on top of that. And that you all have to negotiate in advance. Now, that might sound like nice money, but don't forget that deducted off of all of that money is your costs, your visas, the cost of your time to get your visas, which often is a day of your life. There might be accommodation, there might be travel costs that are not covered by the client, the costs of food and things like that in between, and the costs of the time out. Because one day internationally is about 4 days or 5 days out of your life. It's very difficult to do one day internationally and then come back to South Africa and still have 3 days left of your week. One day internationally is a week of your life. And so, you know, if you're doing 3 or 4 gigs a week in South Africa, it might not be worth it to go international. If you're only doing 1 gig in a week or 2 or 3 a month in South Africa, then, you know, then it's worth it. But don't forget that there are costs that come off of that. So my message is very simple, if long. And that is that you have to go there. So there's no shortcuts. You can't therefore go everywhere. So pick an area of the world and focus on that. Then focus on building your profile and doing all the things that you should know how to do to build your business, but just do it in that region. Focusing attention on getting media presence, connecting through networks, starting at industry level, and specifically going to your existing clients in South Africa and asking if they've got contacts that they can give you. Those are my best bits of advice. And then just hang in there. You know, if you've made the decision and you're good enough and you focus, you will get noticed because you'll be a fresh voice. People love the South African accent, and it'll be a great addition to your career. So let me leave it there and respond to questions now if there are any.
Thank you, Graeme. All right, any questions from the crowd?
Okay, so first one, while everybody else is thinking and finding the mute button, is I've been asked by somebody on the chat here, how much of my business comes through speakers agents, my international business? And the answer is that it's pretty much the same as my South African work, which is about a third. So a third of all my work, South African and international, comes through speakers agents. About a third comes through the work of my team. So I have a company and I have 4 full-time salespeople that I pay. So I've always had that. They work on commission and a very small basic, but they are employed by me and focused on selling me and the rest of my team at Tomorrow Today. And they give me about a third. And then another third of my work comes from referrals and my own direct work. Some people are asking about some of the new .co or .io or some of the other .com, the new .coms. Absolutely no problem. So I wasn't suggesting it has to be a .com, and I'm not suggesting it can't be a .co.za website that you've got. I'm just telling you that you have to think about it, that you have to have a reason. If you're a .co.za, then you're a South African person and you have to position yourself, and then the client has to know why they are employing a South African person. So does that answer make sense? That it's not that one is better than the other, it's just you have to look at it through your client's eyes and understand what they're seeing. If they see a .co.za, most people don't even know what ZA is. They think we're Zambia, and apologies for any Zambian who watches this in the future. But, people would feel nervous of employing a Zambian and flying them across to San Francisco, just because they don't know. They think Africa's one country and that it's all dark and there's no electricity or airplanes. So, as a South African, the .za doesn't help you at all. Which is why I personally would move away from a .co.za, but any of the others would be fine.
If I can add, while you're debating that in the future, go and record or reserve your domain name .com, just in case, even if you have to park it. I didn't do that early enough, and now Charlotte Kemp, the porn star, has got .com, and people get very confused when they find her and then talk to me. All right, Lorne has a real question.
There are worse things to be confused with. I've always thought Graeme Codrington. Seriously, there can't be any others in the world. Bizarrely, there is another Graeme Codrington in the world. He spells his name Graham. But you will be amazed that there are other people in the world with exactly your name. So yeah, think about that. I'm going through the chats here quickly as well, because these are good questions, and then any of you who want to do a voice question, we'll give you a moment.
Lorne has a question as well, when you're ready.
Okay, let me just do this one. So Martin makes a comment about, he says, you must be close to the end of a life if one day equals 5. So here's how it works, Martin, and what I do, and if you want to check this out, I'll put the link now into my into this as we speak. I keep my travel schedule online and public. So anybody, there we go, you can go. No, sorry, I've just sent that to Richard only. How do I send it to everybody? There we go. Okay, I'll send it again. So I keep it online, and I tell all of my clients, go and have a look, because I'm in the lucky position that I've been doing this for a decade already. But some of my clients are prepared to arrange their conferences around my diary. And if not conferences, then at least workshops. So Martin, what I would do is I would discover that somebody wants me to come to Dubai on the 14th of November. This is a real life example. So now I know I'm going to be in Dubai on the 14th of November. What I will do is I will contact all of my Dubai contacts now within the next few days, because I was just booked today. And I will contact all of my Dubai, my Iranian, my Iraq, my Qatar, Kuwaiti clients and contacts. And I'll say, hey, guys, this is fantastic. I'm going to be in Dubai on the 14th of November. You don't have to pay for my travel. I already have a client, and all I'm going to need is one night of hotel accommodation. Are you interested in me coming and speaking to your team? And, I'll get a response back saying, that'd be brilliant. Then I write back to them and I say, look, I realize that you weren't planning to do this. So, what have you got in your budget? These are people who've used me before, so they know my standard pricing. Almost none of them will come back and say, we want you for free. If they said we want you for free, I wouldn't do it. But if they come back and say, I can probably spare $2,500 in my budget. Well, hey, I've got to be in Dubai on the 14th. If they're prepared to use me on the morning of the 15th and they're going to give me $2,500 for the privilege, I'll stay for an extra day. If they want to use me on the Wednesday, I've now got a free day in between, but they're paying for my hotel and I can squeeze something in. So that's why I keep my diary online, and you'll often see clusters of travel because of that. Every now and again it doesn't work out. I've got a flight to Jersey in 2 weeks' time to be there for a Sunday night 15-minute after dinner talk, which I was hoping to build other stuff around and haven't been able to. So that's the dumbest thing I've done this year. But that's what I try and do. Okay, Lorne had a question, I think.
Graeme, I speak quite a lot internationally and mostly in the US, which I'll just, to add to your initial comment at the beginning, especially traveling to the US across multiple time zones is not easy. It's not, it sounds glamorous, but it's not actually that easy. However, because of what I do, the market is very receptive to my talks in the US, and they go down very nicely there, and I'm received well. So I, for my sins, have chosen to kind of make that the primary focus of my international business. One of the things I've done with quite a lot of success, which might help some people as well, is wherever possible, if one is speaking at a conference where it's potentially a non-proprietary or almost non-proprietary situation, is to not just invite, for example, Graeme, you mentioned the speaker's bureau, the agent itself, to come to meet the client, but to actually attend your talk. What I've found is when people see me, they book me, and that's really the best way, is to just be bloody outstanding on the stage, and then you will get booked, So, but my question is around the sensitivity. For example, I'm doing a talk in Abu Dhabi on the 18th of September, and then I fly to DC to do a talk for the World Bank on the 19th of September. So I've got a very, very short turnaround. The client is flying me business class, so hopefully I'll get some sleep on the plane. But my question is around particularly the World Bank event. I'm a little nervous to potentially jeopardize my relationship with the World Bank and with my contact at the World Bank by asking permission to invite someone as a guest to see my talk. You talked about inviting a bureau to meet the client. How do you deal with the sensitivities around, making sure that you're not doing anything to hurt the relationship with the client and yet still being able to build your own business? You've got to take a view on that, Lon, with what you can sense from the client and what you're comfortable with doing. So there are some clients I wouldn't take anybody to. There's some speakers agents I wouldn't introduce to any other humans. So you've got to take a view of that for yourself. But here's my thought back to you, is you've got to work harder to develop your international business. You know the value of building networks and of getting people on side. You know the value of getting people to see you. So just ask for it. If you get a sense that they are humming and hawing and that they might be very nervous, back off. Just say, okay, no problem. It doesn't sound like it's going to work, no problem. Or if they sort of come back to you with a half-hearted yes, then just don't take them up on the offer. If they come back and say, no problem at all. But Lorne, I'll tell you what I've done, gone even further than that. I mean, I've said to clients, because one of the things I want to do is travel more, and I want to introduce my family to the world. I've asked clients, I've said, look,
because every other country in the world, by the way, you pay for the room, the hotel room. You don't pay for the person. I don't know if you know this. South Africa is the only country in the world that you pay per person. Don't understand why. But everywhere else, you pay for the room. So I will often ask a conference organizer, I'll say, look, I'll pay for my family to come. One of my daughters to travel with me. They stay in the room with me. It's not going to cost you any, but are you happy with that? And I've had clients come back to me say, what an amazing thing to do. We'll pay. What's the airfare for them? We'll pay for them. Seriously, I have, because they just love it. It's not their money anyway. They're a corporate. Just another person on the list. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't ask, I don't think you're going to grow your international business that quickly. So, ask more. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can stay on the line till 8:15. I know we've gone over the 1 hour, but I'm not needing to rush. I know some of you might need to drop off, but we'll keep recording. I don't know, Charlotte, what the protocol is. I know this is only the second one, but if you're happy to just roll on a little bit.
That's fine. We can go to 8:15 and then we'll end it there. I just want to check if there's anybody who needs to leave before then. Okay. All right. So we can do that. We can stay on for another 10 minutes and Graeme can handle questions for about another 6 or 7 minutes and then we'll just wrap up and see if there's anything else to comment on. All right. There is a question in the chat box there from Ross asking about free speaking. Okay.
So
if you need to actually ask the question here.
Go for it, Ross. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not a professional speaker by any means. I facilitate at a university, but I'm wanting to get into speaking about technology, bleeding edge, cutting edge, all that kind of stuff. I'm dealing a lot in my current work environment with Canada. I'm doing a couple of trips over there with the work that I do, and I want to speak there and get sort of some exposure and networking in the view of getting into professional speaking there.
Cool.
I've been involved with Rotary and things like that, and I know Rotary has a lot of events where you can speak for free and get a bit of exposure to people, but I know from being part of Rotary there's a lot of people there who actually aren't going to be interested in what you're speaking in to begin with. Is there sort of a view of what's a good thing to speak with for free, what's not, what's pro rata, what's not, and so on?
So this is a great question for everybody. So before you mute there, Ross, just one question. It's a very personal one, and we're just recording this, and we'll put it up on YouTube. So just answer freely. Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a bond that you're repaying?
Yes, I do.
Does your bank take exposure as payment? Okay, we'll leave it there. Okay, a little bit of a cheeky answer. Let me give you a better answer than that. There's obviously value in speaking for free to get exposure internationally because nobody knows you. In Canada, nobody knows who you are. So you've got to get in front of people, but there are 3 simple rules. That you have to know who's in the audience. And you have to know that the people in the audience include people who will buy you. Now, the conference organizer will swear blind that they will, but you're going to need proof of that. So you're going to need their names and contact details. There's a nice exchange, and if they won't give you that information, and there's obviously data protection and things like that, well, then you've got to have a question mark. I also, the second rule is you should never, ever, ever pay to travel internationally. I refuse to get on a plane until I've got money in my account. Seriously, write this down, put exclamation marks, underline it, and then when you ignore this rule and you don't get paid and there's nothing you can do about it, come back and tell me I was right, and then never do it again. You do not get onto an airplane unless you have received payment. At minimum, payment for all of your costs. If you're buying the airplane ticket, they put money in your account before you buy that ticket. And if the ticket gets more expensive before, because they haven't paid you, well, then they must pay you more. And if all the economy seats are sold out and you can only travel business, that's not your problem. But you don't spend a cent and you don't pay people to go and speak on their platforms internationally. That's the biggest scam. And we haven't yet quite got that scam started in South Africa, but it will come because it's the biggest speaker scam in the world. The conference organizers who ask you as speakers to pay to speak at their events for exposure. Don't do it. And then the third thing, and Ross, this will be the best thing for you. And for everybody, you should never, ever, 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 never again do a free event for anybody under any circumstances. But here's how you do it. What you do is if you are prepared to speak for no payment, you still send them an invoice. And what you do in the email is you say, look, my normal fee is, whatever your fee is, let's say it's 20,000 Rand. My normal fee is 20,000 Rand, but my team is happy for me to not take all of that in cash. I don't have to be paid all of that fee in money, but I do have to receive that fee in value, and I have to show my team the value that I've received. So I'm very happy to come and speak at your event for no payment, but how are we going to ensure that you give me $4,000 in value? This could be that you put an advert into your Rotary newsletter. So I provide the advert and you put it in the Rotary newsletter for free. And then that's good value. It might be, Nikki, we talked about you earlier, it might be that you give me 5 days of hotel accommodation in Sydney. So you pay for my travel and you give me 5 days of hotel accommodation so that I can stay in Sydney for the week. Then we square. But you've got to look for a trade exchange. You've got to look for something. Will you send an email out to your industry? Will you connect me with 3 media partners? Will you get me on TV? And give them a few ideas of what is valuable to you, and then ask them to also give you other ideas. Almost always, I've got more value than I would have got if I charged them an invoice when I try that. And in that way, they get something where they're not paying you, but you walk away with value. And the final thing is they get an invoice from you for 20,000 Rand or $4,000 or whatever, less $4,000 for marketing, advert in your magazine, whatever. Now, if somebody comes to them later and says, how much did Ross charge you for that talk, by the way? They don't say Ross was free, which is the last thing you want. Now you've had exposure as a free speaker. Worst nightmare. What they say is, well, Ross charged us $4,000. And the guy at Rotary says, you paid Ross $4,000. We Rotary. What are you, And they say, no. Actually, he gave us a discount. We gave him a few things. He didn't charge us that full amount. In fact, he did it for free. Now you sound like a good guy. They know what your normal fee level is, and everybody's happy. So there's my suggestion on how you handle that.
I think that's the best advice to end off this call on. Well done. All right.
Can I just do one other thing, Charlotte?
Yes.
Sorry, Charlotte. Just one other thing here. Dion asking a question about exclusivity. Absolutely not, Dion. Absolutely not. Why would you be exclusive with a speaker's agent? Unless they're actually going to be your actual agent. Where they might get you a book deal, or they will guarantee you a certain amount of bookings. Absolutely not. Okay, thanks, Dion. Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Graeme. That really was very incredible advice, and we got a recording, and I'm still getting emails from people saying, please, can I share the recording with them as well. Any last comments? Not questions, which will start a new conversation, but any last comments from anybody just to round this off? Anyone want to make a comment? Oh, our speakers were all so... Yes, Lorne.
No, I just would like to thank Graeme for taking his time, and Graeme, you are the quintessential gentleman. You're always exceedingly generous with your time and advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorne. Thank you very much. Graeme, we're going to add our advice, and you're getting applause from people too. That's lovely. All right, folks. Thank you very much. We're going to have this call up on the recording in a short while, and we'll send an email out to everyone. The next call that will be coming up is in about 2 weeks' time. Richard Mulvey will be speaking about how to monetize your IP. So if you have a training course or a program or a book or a video series, or if you want to take your live program and turn it into something else, how do we actually do that? And we're going to explore that with Richard. And that is going to be an introduction towards a session that the PSASA is going to do in October of this year in Gauteng, a full day and a half on that topic. We will have the other speakers' agendas coming up shortly. We'll send out an email through that. And if I can ask you folks, if you know of any other speakers who are not connected with us in any way and would get value from this information, please feel free to pass on the emails, feel free to pass on the links, and you can let me know as well, and I'll just make sure that they at least get onto the mailing list to find out about more information. If there's any way that we can help you, if there's any questions you have, you're welcome to send them on to me, charlotte@charlottekemp.co.za, and I'll help you out. But thank you very much, and good night to everybody.